Lane.
Yes.
So that was like, that went back to the board a few months ago.
I'm opposed to it.
What's the whole idea?
I'm gonna keep you out of it, but if you're in trouble with the work.
Plans were back in 2007. Planning board was a private road, it was done right at the time. So the public works maintained. He was Mr. Public Works and that board member.
That is who he was.
HOA.
So he's saying about the.
I'll hear it.
The HOA, the DPW was pick up the trash.
Okay.
So it's, but as far as maintaining the road, snow and all that stuff. So they-
Are you here tomorrow?
they have Approval for.
Nah, I'm there today. I took the easier one.
When they came back, it said,
Yeah.
Like that one, yes. So he said, you're gonna do the road. What can you do, right?
In the story? In the story? On top of it. Oh, so he's upset about it. Yeah, he claimed he's upset because we went to file a lawsuit. He said that he said that the reason why he resigned from the board is because he didn't want to fight
What do you need, a plug? And the sewer.
Don't even know yet.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's why I think. No, I didn't do it. I own the last night was the third time I was supposed to
I know that.
I don't even know. What is the minimum?
Adam's not here yet.
I turned off my phone because I
Wait a minute, who's that? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wait. Okay, we'll wait. Go? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Tonight's meeting has been advertised according to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli,
Here.
Mr. Halverson, Mr. Lakewood, Mr. Natale, Mr. Vivian, Mr. Inger,
Here.
Mr. Gross, Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Halverson.
Here. I'll be placing Mr. Inger in lieu of members that are missing. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have an approval of minutes of January 7th meeting? Yeah. Who was that? Me. Mr. Gelli, can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Obi, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Natale. Yes. Mr. Vivian.
Yes.
Mr. Inger.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Halverson.
Yes. Madam Secretary, any correspondence with tonight's meeting?
Yes, appeal number 4103.
Quiet, please, thank you.
4103, Cedar Ridge Holdings, they did not advertise, they cannot get heard.
Okay, so we're not even going to do any motion on it because it's not being heard.
Right.
And
That's not exactly accurate. We noticed, but there was an issue.
are you Cedar Ridge Holding?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I wouldn't be talking.
Okay, Montauk Miriam Weinstein's office told me that the advertisement went to the advert request on time. And for some reason, the service they used for the certified mailing did not pick it up on time. I guess we will have no choice but to be heard in March. Since they did get the advertisement, but just a little late, can we carry it by the meeting, or do we need to re-notice? We have to re-notice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need a motion for it because it's not being
You don't need we're gonna renotice. You don't need a motion. I just wanted you to know we did send out the notice. Simple certified,
Blame it on the post office. No
Mr.
problem.
Sun, but yeah.
Okay.
We will renotice.
No problem. Okay, shut down. Blame it on the shutdown.
Thank you. What? Maybe that is the reason.
Maybe.
It's the first time it happens. I don't know, weird.
Appeal number 4095, they withdrew their application.
Anyone that's here for you, for Grace Hill? Oh. Are you here, anyone here? No, so is this totally withdrawn off the table?
Yes, off the
Ah,
table.
okay, so we don't need a motion for it at all. You have that in writing?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, next, what else?
4100, they did not advertise, that's New Hampshire Investments.
And who's here for New Hampshire Investments? You didn't advertise?
Didn't know it was on, I found it was on, it's with
Okay, fine, so we're not gonna renotice it, and no motion necessary, fine. Okay, that's it, Madam Secretary?
That's it for now.
Okay, having said that, we're gonna go to old business, 57 Ocean LLC,
570 Ocean
570
LLC.
Ocean LLC,
Ocean Avenue, block 538, lots 13, 14, and 42, R75 zone. Subdivision for 6 new lots for the construction of 3 undersized duplexes. Terry Road Engineer Planner, January 21st, 2019. The applicant seeks minor subdivision approval to subdivide an existing property into 6 residential lots. 0 lot line properties are proposed with 3 duplex buildings. A use variance is required as duplexes in the R75 zone require a minimum 10,000 square feet, where 9,262.50 square feet is provided for each duplex.
Mr. Chairman, as you might recall, we heard most of the testimony from Mr. Lyons, but it was carried because there were no architecturals, which I understand now you have.
correct.
So perhaps if.
So we're gonna continue where we left off?
Sorry?
We're gonna continue where we left off
Yeah,
last
maybe
month.
Mr. Lyons can testify.
But I would like to have a recap of what the testimony was last month,
Identify.
please.
Just, and then before we do Mr. Dess, I just want to make sure all the members that are here tonight were here at the last meeting? Yes, so we're good on that?
Yes, I had a full quorum, which was January
Okay,
meeting.
right.
So everyone was
I
here.
think you're right. Okay, great. Good evening. Mary Weinstein on behalf of the applicant 570 Ocean LLC. As indicated, yes, we did present most of this application, I think, at the last hearing until somebody caught that the board had not received the architecturals. Just to recap, this application is for demolition of the existing structures, which incidentally have numerous variances on them as of today's date. In addition to being dilapidated, this application calls for demolition of those structures and for construction of 3 duplex buildings consisting of 6 zero-lot line duplex units. In its stead, the lot sizes will be 9,262.5 square feet. The lots conform in all other respects. These lots are pretty much in keeping with many of the other lots along Ocean Avenue. There's actually a project right next door with similarly situated lots. With that, I guess I would like to ask to have Glenn Lyons sworn so he can continue the testimony from the last meeting.
Mr. Lyons, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do. Red Lions, Lakewood, New Jersey. West Shines, New York.
Will you accept his credentials, or you need you want him to say it louder?
No, please do your
Red Lions, professional engineer, professional planner, Lakewood, New Jersey.
Can you identify not only the architectural, but identify what's on the easel in terms of the resolution, A1, A2, that kind of thing?
Yes.
I don't think we did that last meeting.
That's okay. A1 is the composite map showing the subject property and the other duplexes along Route 88 and in the area. A2 is the sheet 101 of the plan submitted to the board showing the proposed lot layouts with the variance identified.
Can you, thank you for identifying, is there like a date on them or so who prepared them for the record?
The subdivision map is prepared by Blue Lines Engineering, Chris Cooper, PLF, and it's dated 5/25/2018.
All right, can you identify the architectural renderings that were submitted? We'll label those A3.
Yes, those are prepared by Alan Robinson, R.A., consisting of, said I have those 2 sheets, and they're dated January 3rd, 2019.
Spell his last name.
Robinson.
Thank you.
As I testified at the last meeting, the only variance we requested for 3 lots is the lot area. We provide conforming lot widths, lots, so all side setbacks, provide appropriate parking, and the subdivision we're preparing is similar to the subdivision across the street, next door, and a lot further. There's numerous other subdivisions on Route 88 where they're being redeveloped as duplexes as the older housing stock is taken down.
Okay. I think this is just a very basic, simple subdivision, which is just shy about 700 square feet
In area.
in lot area. Everything else, I think there's no other variance, you're not seeking any other variance, correct?
That's correct. No other
Correct.
variances.
I don't have that list left. So it's basically just a regular undersized subdivision, and guys, what? Yeah, I got a question. There's nothing here.
Basically,
It's just.
as you view the lots from the front, from the street, they look exactly like if they were
That's
100%.
It's only a matter of, you have your 60 width, you have your regular duplex width, your side yards are within reason, your heights are normal, your parking is normal, right?
One question.
Yes.
The 7 feet side yard setbacks you're talking about, that's between each lot, not between the house. That's 14 feet.
14 feet between the house.
Yeah, 14 feet, it'll be
Yeah,
7 and 12, you almost have to look at.
To the lot line, 7 foot.
Yeah, a lot, so we total 14, what we have to look at more closely is at the end one, which is neighboring a neighbor with that house.
So it's also gonna be 7 feet
From the lot line, and then you look at the other sidewalks on the other side, it's not a problem.
And that's conforming. The 7 feet is conforming.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one point there.
The attic, is everything in the attic?
The attics are not finished. It's the same as every other duplex. There's a raw attic.
But I do see a new style of configuration stairs going up to the attic on this one. We used to see it terminate on the second floor. Here I see it go all the way up to the attic, but it doesn't terminate. I haven't seen this style yet. I mean,
Actually, Mr. Chairman, it's a good start because you've got the bedrooms on the outside, not on the joining.
right.
So it's a nice design, and the stairs, the attic are inside the house.
They're inside of the house. See?
The question is, your client agree there won't be any exterior stairs to the attic?
Absolutely. It happens to be a different architect than we typically see,
Who
which
was the architect of this?
Brains. It's a different architect, which may be why it's slightly different style. Right, but it says on it, yeah. Right.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask you a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I see that we have the architectural, but we don't have the, like, the engineering, how it lays out the parking lot, how.
We had last one. We had last one.
They did do it.
Yeah, sure. Sure, we have last one.
You still have a copy, I just want to see how the parking lays out. I know on Ocean Avenue, that's that,
An 8.5 by 11, it's a little small. You're not gonna be able to read it.
on Ocean Avenue, it was asked that we had, where the 2 parking lots
There-
basically joins.
Correct.
Have to back out onto.
On Route 88, I think we have to do that.
They're gonna have that.
We're gonna have to do that and
Like a
have
little
it.
jug handle where it comes out.
Yes, we do, and then there's a cross-access easement.
Yeah, but you realize, you don't go to cross section, is another spot, another car.
Yeah, there is a way where somebody can back out.
Mr. Ingram, that's been approved by the DOT, because it's a state highway, the design for the duplexes has to be approved by the DOT. It's the same design as all those other duplexes where they have that shared driveway so that they don't back out onto the state highway. And then we do a shared access easement for the shared portion of the driveway. So yes, it will be the same, but thank you, it's a good question. Yes, 7 and 7.
Yes. Okay, guys, back there. Guys, thank you. Anyone in the public want to be heard on appeal number 4090, 570 Ocean LLC? Please step up. Seeing none?
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm the testimony?
I affirm.
Hold on 1 minute.
Your full name and spell your last.
Schleimer Klein. I'm going up.
Go.
They said they're sidewalks, so obviously I'm limited on what I could speak. I just saw lately they're doing census on the attic apartments and basement apartments. I also gave that look when I saw why they're doing census on attic apartments. I didn't see in Lakewood where there's attic apartments, especially where the zoning board approves.
There's not going to be a separate unit in the attic, is that what you're saying? No.
I'm talking about the legal illegal stuff. So, I must give a compliment to this board versus the planning board. Whenever an application comes up, they are concerned about the attic apartments. So obviously is that somebody will make a separate apartment of the attic. They do it unfinished, and then they finish it up and they make an apartment. And this board was always on the target and not looking away. Versus the planning board, they need some patch on this subject. Thank you very much.
Good night. Appropriate patch. Okay. Anyone else in the public want to be heard? Please step up. Seeing none, we'll close to the public. Okay, guys, can I have a final comment or motion on this application?
Motion to approve the application with all the specifications as we've had all the other duplexes. Okay, Jeremy?
Okay. I have a motion from Obi Gonzalez. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mayor Gelli. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali?
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat?
Yes.
Mr. Inger?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halberstam?
Yes. Good night and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving ahead, we'll go to the next application, Esther Tower, 4093.
Congress Street, lot 248.02, lots 39 and 40, R75 zone, to create duplexes, an undersized lots require 10,000 square feet, proposed 9375, from Terry Boat, engineer planner. The use variance is required as duplexes in the R75 zone, require a minimum of 10,000 square feet, whereas 9375 square feet is provided for each duplex.
Now, we're going to swear you in again, okay? Do you affirm, raise your right hand, do you affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God? Mr. Lyons, are you going to testify?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Lyons, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do. Glad Lyons, professional engineer, professional planner, Lakewood, New Jersey. This application is very much like the last one. We are proposing to subdivide the existing property into 4 lots, 2 duplexes. The application only requires a variance for lot area. We're not requesting any side yard setback variances, in front setback. 4 parking spaces per property. Again, it's an area, the same exhibit I had last time, which is A1, which is the composite tax map. The property we're talking about is the one that's in red. The yellow outline to the north and actually east and west. They're all townhouses. and multi-family apartments. Right behind this property is one of the Lakewood Housing Authority buildings. And the rest of the properties that are already duplexes in the area are on Tower and Green. From
Wait a minute. Guys, if you have to speak, please go outside. Thank you.
From the street, these will look like normal duplexes, conforming side yard setbacks. Or again, just a little shallower than normal, what's required.
If you don't mind, Glenn, I don't have my spot here. Can you bring me the site? You got one? I got one? Okay.
We got it.
Mr. Lyons, we're gonna label A1 the composite map. What's on the other,
The other is the title minor subdivision plan, final plat, prepared by Blue Lines Engineering and Survey, dated September 27th,
Just for the record, assessing the plan here.
27?
September 27th, 2018.
And the architecturals now, can you identify those?
I left my set at the office. I apologize.
I have them here.
No, I gave those for the last set.
Yeah. This is block 248.
Correct. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Again, these are,
All right, what we have is prepared again by Mr. Robinson,
correct.
R.A. At least mine don't appear to be dated, right?
They're dated in the, will be the lower right-hand corner, January 3rd, 2019.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, they're not exact, they're very similar to the other.
Okay, I got it.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question, Mr. Lyons. What was it last month that we decided to wait for this month? Just for these diagrams?
We didn't start that.
We never started the
Never
application.
started the application.
They didn't have
The architecturals.
architecturals.
The architectural.
So just for the record, how many square feet is each lot?
Each lot will have a total of 9,375 square feet. So each duplex unit itself will have 4,687.5 square feet. They are, the total property is 62 feet wide, where 60 is required.
Again, you're only seeking, that one variance, because you're undersized from 10,000 to 9375, whatever it is. There's no other variances that you're looking for.
Under R75 zone.
This application is slightly larger.
Yeah, it's about 100 square feet larger than the other one.
Correct.
It's exactly, it's a replicable application like the other one. Anyone in the public want to be heard on bill number 4093?
Just for the record now, Mr. Lyons, while someone comes up, there'll be no separate stairway to the attic?
No, it's an internal set, it's different than a lot of the applications, as Mrs. Weinstein pointed out in the last application. The stairs are not actually on the outside of the building,
Right.
they're on the inside of the common walls, so there's no separate outside access to get to the stairs.
And the attic will not be a separate living unit?
Will not be a separate living
Thank
unit.
you.
You can't get up to the attic from any outside door from the left. Jerry, there's no outside door to go upstairs to the attic.
I want to put it in here, there's no outside stairway.
It's in the middle of the house. It's not even by a side door.
Somebody ever tries to change
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's fine, I got it. Okay, from the public, anyone want to be heard?
Yeah,
Okay, so just come on up.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth? Raise your right hand.
Confirm.
And you have to give us your full name and spell your last.
My name is Zev Lam. Zev Lam, L-A-M-M.
Thank you.
Zev, Z-E-V. Hi, Frank. No. Z-E-V.
Whereabouts do you live, sir?
I live on 11 Congress, which is the next lot. It's between Route 88 and Goose.
Okay, so why don't you indicate?
Just 2-3 words about the block. I've known them here since 2010. It's a great block. It turned into a great block actually in the last couple of years. I just want to bring out that over the last couple of years, there's been, in the past, there's been a lot of crime in the area in general. A lot of people say this area has always been the, I guess we could even call it like the Harlem of Lakewood. And in the last couple of years, it's really, really improved. But I remember 2 years ago, a year or two ago, there was a chase where the cops pulled somebody over, 2 guys over for drugs, and he was checking them out, and they got away. They were running through yards, and they finally caught them after bringing down the entire Lakewood Police Department. I think it was about 20 cops. They did a great job. They got the guy, but that's just one of the many cases in the last 8 years where I think we need to try to get rid of this type of stuff, and I think by bringing in families, that will certainly improve the situation. That's really it. I just wanted to bring out my support for Mr. Talbert. He's a great neighbor, and he's a great guy, and I think he's doing good work for the area.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who want to be heard?
Mr. Klein, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth?
I affirm I have nothing what to say.
You still have 3 minutes and 52 seconds left.
That's not going to be carried to the next application.
You cannot make the time.
You use it or lose it. Yes, you're going to raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth?
I affirm. Isaac Lieberman. My address is 779 Whitmore Street. 779 Whitmore Street. Right now I'm building a house on Congress, two lots down, and I just wanted to say that I'm for approving this duplex. I know it's maybe 6% less than the requirement, but I think the board should approve it. That you will enhance the block. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the plans. I don't see any basement entrances. Is this like not going to have basement apartments?
You took his words out of my mouth. There's no basement plans at all.
No plans or no entrance.
There would be a basement apartment.
We don't see an entrance back to the basement.
Okay, so
Can't vouch for the other.
So I guess there's no entrance, no outside entrance.
There's no outside entrance, no basement. You can put a basement, you can put a door to the outside.
That's it. Where it is. We have to remember where it is.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
They show on elevation, it shows a rating where the living room is here, what kind of
I don't know. Yeah, there's a window, not a door.
Right.
The window. I saw that. It might have been over Mr. Glenn, Mr. Lyons, would you like to discuss, you discussed with the applicant, see what the basement is?
Is there a basement? It's flat.
It is a basement.
If you look in the front of, on the architectural plan, in the front of the house, what shows is a window, there's in front of that is a railing. So that would be, the stairs would enter from the side in front of the house, and most likely the doorway for the basement apartment is under the front steps.
There's no entrance. I don't see.
Well,
I see a nice picture, but I don't see any.
You don't see it on the.
Not on any of these plans is there any entrance to the basement. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if the steps face the interior. It's very unclear if it's up or down. Oh, here, it's down here. It looks like it's only from the interior of the house. There's steps to the basement. And I think it's just worthwhile to clear this up. There's no exterior entrance. We have to slide it.
We'd like to know where it is, and
It's not there. Tell us where it is, so we know where to look for it later on.
That was my testimony to submit it. The entrance will be in the front of the house, where that railing is shown on the front architecture. So you'll enter basically from the side yard, down the stairs to the basement apartment in the front of the house. It won't be on the side, or it'll be on the front.
Inside yard, you don't need side yard, inside is from step.
That's the porch coming out.
Is that gonna cause the front porch to protrude more? it's, kind of tight right now. Or you work within the frame.
We'll work within the footprint we have, and they'll have to fit the door in somehow. But that's where the front door was intended to be, to the basement.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that there should.
There's no stairs even depicting on the front elevation. Usually you have
Correct.
the depiction of the stairs. So, go ahead.
If I could recommend,
Yes.
we will provide plans to the board engineer during resolution compliance, showing the front entryway at the front of the home.
I'll tell you better, okay? We bring you a set of plans next month. I'm gonna ask for a motion for this today, but I would like to see you putting it next month.
That'd be fine.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Make sure with the revised architectural plans, you provide a basement floor.
And if we don't like where the stairs are, we'll ask you to change it until you come back with it. So any additional deal, we like where the stairs are and everything else. Yeah, and full basement plan. Okay?
If we do make a motion, I think we should specify that there should only be one set of stairs going in from the outside. Only one set of exterior, stairs and entrance from the outside into the base area.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion with any stipulations? What did you just say?
So, motion to approve this application, with only one set of stairs, to the basement, with plans to be submitted by next meeting, and all the regular upgrades, which is stones, architectural, landscaping,
There won't be any exterior stairs to the attic, and the attic will not be a separate unit.
right.
Living.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion from Mike Kinga, second by Mayor Gelli. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gilli?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali? Mr. Ribbiat?
Yes.
Mr. Inger? Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halberstam?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Now, good luck, and we want to see you back next month. Thank you. Okay. Moving forward, 3998, David Hall.
James Street, lot 338, lot 3, R12 zone. Use variance for duplexes from Terry Road Engineer Planner, January 2nd. Duplex development is not permitted in the zone. Use variance relief, minimum lot area, lot width, front yard setback, side yard setback, and lot coverage variances are required for this project.
Sir, would you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the whole business?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. The application this evening is, as indicated, for a use variance and minor subdivision to allow duplexes in a zone that doesn't allow duplexes. I have 6 exhibits. A1 is a copy of the minor subdivision map submitted showing the proposed property in orange with the subdivision lines for the 2 duplexes, 4 duplex units. A2 is a copy of the tax map. It shows the subject property in orange, which is surrounded by a shul property. To the east of it, or outlined in blue, the duplex projects which have been approved by this board in the R12 zone and built. The school, and then there's more duplexes that were approved by this board, and across the street in blue to the south are also outlined in blue the duplexes that were approved by this board and constructed. A3 is a copy of the improvement plan showing the roadway that would be put in. It should be noted that Grandway Avenue currently has 4 duplex units, the same size as are being proposed here on the east side of the street, and it terminates in a cul-de-sac. 4 is a copy of the proposed land use changes from the master plan of 2017, which indicates that when the roads are fixed, this should be a R10B zone, which would permit this development by right. A5 is a copy of the map that shows the 12 other projects that the board probably doesn't need to hear about because they all had special reasons for why the board approved duplexes in an R12 zone, 2 of them being adjacent properties with this specific R12 zone. And A6 is a copy of the proposed land use map from the master plan, which again shows that the master plan recommended this be an R10B. If you look at the map, you can see that behind it is the Crystal Lake Preserve. Across the street is the M1 zone. So this is a little area of housing. When we did those applications, the first one, go ahead with the first one was done November 9th of 2015, and at that time the board approved the duplexes in this zone based on the master plan, the smart growth plan, all of the plans indicating that the duplexes in this zone was an appropriate use. At that time, there were residents that came out and said this would provide needed housing opportunities, and the same is existing today. This is an infill property. The property next to it is a shul. The property across the street is duplexes. The only thing logical from a planning standpoint that belongs here is duplexes. And if the board doesn't grant the variance relief needed, what's going to happen here is the property is going to sit vacant for a short period of time until the county improves the roadways. And if you read the scoop, there's a big article in the scoop about all the work the county is finally doing to improve the road. So that's something that's going to happen in the near future. It's my testimony that it's likely to happen before these even get built. But all the same reasons that the board approved the other projects that are shown in blue certainly are the same this evening.
Did you say by right they would be entitled to build this once the road improves?
Yes. Yes.
They would still, even if it would be approved for duplexes, they would still need to apply for relief because they still have lot size.
No, it would be, the lots would be in accordance with the new ordinance, and they would go to the planning board with a by right application for duplex.
But they will still need relief for setbacks because he needs 30 and he's only 25.
They
still should be. No, well, that's right now. It's 97. I see.
Yes, the one would be 9752.
Oh, yeah. So they were still.
But it would not be a use variance. It would be bulk variance, similar to the ones that this board just approved in the prior 2 applications.
But the difference is that here you would also need front yard setbacks, 27 and 45. You'll also need rear yard setbacks and a couple more.
Well, the variances that are listed now are compared to the R12 zones. So the 7.5 side setbacks would be consistent with the R10B and consistent with the other duplexes. Even the 25-foot front setback is consistent with the other duplexes that were approved here.
10B is a 25-foot front yard setback? Is that what you're saying?
I would have to look at it.
I don't think so.
If you'd like, I have the order of equipment.
When someone in the public will look it up.
Okay. So looking at the report from the board engineer, it lists the relief that we're requesting because it's in R12. We need the use variance. We're requesting the lot area relief. We're requesting the lot width relief. All of this is because the property is currently R12, and we want to, we're looking to get approval to develop it in accordance with, consistent with the R10B standard. The rear yard setback, we're asking for 10 feet, but that's
Guys.
to the deck.
Guys,
Side yard setback, and combined side yard setback, and lot coverage, a maximum of 30%, which is consistent with, the R10B. The duplex units would be the standard duplex units, architectural plans were submitted. The applicant would certainly agree to all of the standard zoning board requirements of the 1/3 architectural upgrade, the irrigation, and all the same criteria that the adjoining properties agreed to and built accordingly.
Mr. Cronin, can you give us testimony as to why the C variances should be granted? What's the hardship, or was it C2, or what's the criteria that was needed?
I would certainly get there. I want to finish up on this report and then.
Sorry.
As indicated in the report, the property is on Brentwood and James. James is a county road, so we would need county approval. And as indicated, we would agree to the irrigation.
Right, Russell.
So the master plan of 2017 on page 3 indicates, it goes through all the growth, and it says, based on this information, it's important that Lakewood plan for residential development.
you okay?
I'm expecting it to pass. Residential development to house this growing population. The vision statement says, encourage development in appropriate locations consistent with established land uses. This clearly does that. Page 22 of the master plan. Under environmental constraints indicates that 19% of the town is deed restricted open space, so that there are these open space areas, specifically the Crystal Lake Preserve, so that a higher density adjacent to that provide for the housing opportunity without any adverse impact. It also indicates on page 23, infill development should be promoted because it serves to minimize the community development footprint and thereby conserve finite land resources and reduce traffic congestion. The municipal land use law, under the purpose of the Act, is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use and development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And it's my testimony that does this. It's infill development. That's really the only logical development. We're asking for C2 variances for the bulk requirement, where we need to show the benefits outweigh the detriments, and my testimony is that it fits in with the adjoining development. Therefore, there really is no detriment, and the benefit is the housing opportunities that it provides. We're also looking for a D variance for the density and the duplexes in the zone where they're not permitted. And in this case, it's a variance where it fits well in the site. It's particularly well suited for this property, and the approval of this will promote the general welfare in the sense that it provides the housing opportunity in accordance with the master plan. That would be my testimony.
Brian, just bring you down memory lane a little bit. If you can help me out. Way back when we approved the townhouses next door, it was before the 2017 master plan came into effect.
The duplexes.
Right.
Yes.
And we approved that based on the notion that the township had that as a 10B because of the lawsuit that was the only case in that neighborhood up until the single family house on the other side of the school will be duplexes, right?
Yes.
So we had the school, that last piece on the right side of the school, right?
Yep.
And we said, okay, if this is the last piece, then we will put the duplexes in, right? Remember that?
I don't remember saying that this is the last piece. I remember saying
Wait.
the master plan says this should be R10B.
That's what I'm thinking, that's what I'm like. I know you don't know.
I have the notes of the meeting. It doesn't
Okay.
say that it's
Okay. So now let's go the other direction now.
Okay.
So we decided then that the school, the piece next to the school, which we gave a duplex,
Yep.
right? And then we're going up Drake, right? We said that we can't do any more duplexes in there because that's where it really stays R12. And behind this is the Lake Reserve, so it's an isolated piece. Let's all be nice, and let's give Mr. Cass a piece of property, okay? 2017, the master plan changed, right?
But
We
have a new master plan,
New master plan.
which again says
Go ahead.
this
Now
is
come from there.
appropriate. This is appropriate and should be the R10B. That's
Okay, wait. But where is that line now? In 2012, this is still 12,000 square feet, which falls under the ordinance of the two maps that you can't have. The two maps that have to fix Cross Street, it's an R12, and so on and so forth, right?
yes.
That falls under that category. Right on the other side of this is a trailer synagogue, which has been built,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What's on the other side after the trailer synagogue?
On the other side of that is the Crystal Lake Reserve, which
Which
is
comes
wide.
down to Drake? Because there's a,
Goes all the way out to Ridgeway.
it goes up to Ridgeway?
There's one lot on Ridgeway that's not in it, lot
Okay.
334.
Okay.
And then it goes all the way up to Serenity Estates.
It goes all the way up to Serenity State, so all that on Ridgeway, on the right side of Ridgeway, is all Crystal Lake Reserve?
Correct.
You can't touch that.
That
So
is
the
correct.
break is really right there.
The break is really at the other side of the shul.
Of the-
where
of the
where
trailer.
zone line is. The current R12 zone line and the future proposed
Can I see that?
R10B.
Okay, that's what I wanted to figure out. Okay. Sorry. So this 10D here, would you have it come here? Ryan?
Yeah.
You can just help me out, Sarah. Just for the record, we have here a map, what map is, what did we do this?
Proposed land use.
Proposed land, this is E, what number is this?
A6.
A6, okay. We have here, A6, in my hand. This is the site, where it's a 10B?
Yeah.
Okay.
The little dot in there, the shul is the.
Is this little, the shul is this little corner right here?
Yes.
This little,
Yeah.
This is the shul right here? This is the
Yes.
shul?
Yes.
And this corner right here is the piece?
Yes.
So all this is Crystal Lake Reserve?
That is
Besides this little schmitz right in here?
That is correct.
All this is just Lake Reserve. And you have written here 10B, because that's what it's supposed to be based on the new, on the new
That's
master
the
plan.
end, not me.
TN, okay. Okay. And these is probably residential, I can you get duplexes at 10B,
The R10B permit.
yes?
Yes.
If you have how many square feet, you have what?
10,000 square feet.
So then why does it say, single family residential?
The same reason R75 says, and R10 say.
Residential, but here, you
Single
get,
family duplexes are single family residential, there's some I can have. I'll get the R10 ordinance, which is right in my book.
the new ordinance where it says 10B, not an R10 ordinance, I want to see the R10B ordinance.
R10B, this is actually an R10B.
Ordinance.
Ordinance, correct.
Which says, duplexes are permissible in it?
Yes.
Okay. By the break in, up to the public, we'll pull that out too. Put on your list, okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
In other words, there's no other lot that can be built from there all the way to the Ridgeway, there's nothing else except that those.
That is correct. That is correct. This is the last one that, could get brought to this board.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
do you agree with his explanation on the R10B zone, that duplexes are permissible based on
He said he has the ordinance for it. Oh, he is our engineer. I'm sorry.
Well, without looking quickly, I would say that's true. The only thing I don't know offhand is the lot area that would be required. Because usually when you have duplexes in R10, you need 12,000 square feet combined. And the proportion 10,000 in this case.
which would be the R75, not the.
Right.
Not
So the R10 requires 12,000, the R10A and the R10B were 10,000 for a duplex.
Mr. Flannery, just so the chairman, the township committee has not adopted an ordinance implementing that part of the master plan, which makes 10B a lot.
That is correct, which is why we're here. And it's the same as the prior argument, because when we came for the property that was owned by the school at the time, and all the properties in this area, it was the same thing. The master plan called for it, but the ordinance hadn't been adopted, hence being at the zoning board rather than.
So when they created the two maps of the master plan last time around, both of you, when they created the two maps last time around, like the 2017 master plan, the ordinance for 10B wasn't adopted yet until the Cross Street gets fixed.
Well, it's not adopted yet, period. I don't know when.
General.
The master plan is a
It's a
plan.
recommendation.
Yeah, exactly right. The township doesn't have to follow it. At this point, the township has not adopted an ordinance implementing a good portion of that recommendation, including the, might in the future, why not?
That's what I guess you before.
Now, this, right now, this is in the R12 zone. I heard someone talk about R10. This is R12.
Yeah, that's
Prior to applications you had on Ocean Avenue required 10,000 square feet, and you get 93. This is 12,000.
It's required, 12,000 is required.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, right, then
What is each lot now? 92 and what?
These are between 9,700 and 10,000 square feet.
And it needs 12,000.
But he only has 10.
And then it's not on 3 of them, on the other ones, he has 97.
Okay.
He has 92 and 97, he needs 12.
Okay.
He has 2 of them, according to the review letter, which are 10,000 square feet. 2 lots are 9752, 12,000 required.
The combination.
Yeah, he's 12,000 each lot.
The combination is under.
6,000.
And the reason why the combination on the corner lot is under is because of the dedication.
Correct.
Dedication at the corner. That's why that's not also 10,000.
Yeah, that's a 20,000, it's a 20,000 square foot lot. When we dedicate property to the county for James Street, that's what brings it under the 9,700, which is similar to all of the lots across the street. They're all 10,000 square foot. So this is a 20,000 square foot lot in a neighborhood that has all 10,000 square foot cul-de-sac lots. And the master plan says that it should be R10B, which allows duplexes on 10,000 square foot lots.
Okay. Okay, anyone has any comments? I'm still thinking about this, so I'm going to
Just one comment, the last house on the corner of James, is that also close to James? For cars coming in and out, viewing, traffic?
It's behind the side triangle.
There's a 30-foot by 100-foot site triangle easement, and it's probably at least 8 feet to 10 feet clear of that site triangle easement. So the answer is no, it's not too close. And again, it's similar to the lots directly across the street. It's the same situation where they're 100-foot wide duplex lot, mirror image of what we're proposing this evening.
And what is that realizes they'll put a fence, like an equal fence?
Well, it's shown right on the plan, the site triangle easement. It's a restriction that's on their survey, that's on the file map, and if they go for a permit for a fence, the Siegel is very diligent in not allowing fences in a site triangle.
Would this be conforming, would you need to come here for an approval if you made the corner lot a single-family home and keep the back line duplex? Would you be able to shift things around to be able to?
In order to put a duplex in the R12, we have to come here.
No, I'm talking about the corner lot should be a single, and it's kind of a busy street. Would that work?
Well, we still need to be here, we still need.
Oh, for the duplex, because that's still 3,000 square feet, or almost 3,000 square feet.
On the 10,000, we'll need to come back here for.
So, I mean, Mr. Chair, I'm looking like this, it should have started off 24,000 square feet.
Right.
It's really 20. And that, it's really 20, which makes it 10. But even if the master plan was approved, or may approve this, it still is not 10,000 square feet.
Right.
There's
12, we'll need 12.
They would need 10, if the master plan, right now they need 12.
Right.
If the master plan, maybe yeah, maybe not, even if they do approve it, they would still not have 10,000 square feet. So we're like 2 steps away.
If this would be in a 10,000 square foot zone, you need 12,000 for the duplex.
Right.
Right? Which doesn't happen. The only reason why you can sway should be permissible, you have right across the street when we did it. And there's no, so you're kind of stuck, because if you're on the other side of the road, you have in the same cul-de-sac, in the same.
So I'm not looking at.
There are no single-family houses there.
I'm not looking at this application from the neighboring duplexes, because they were approved on a much bigger scale, and before the master plan really came out and said that there should be widening of roads and all these things. So now we're jumping the gun like 3 times because we're going.
Correct.
They don't have all the, and the master plan still says that if you wanted to be 10,000 square feet, you'd still have to.
And the lots across the street are all 10,000.
Right. So,
I'm giving you the flip side.
right. I don't consider this. The other complexes were approved a while ago, way before the master plan, and on a much bigger scale.
And it's stuck to the 10B
right.
criteria that they were in the 10B, which they have written, but not adopted, but they followed that plan. Here, it doesn't follow the plan, it goes below that.
Right.
Right.
And really it provides that all this traffic should be open for future development. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Go ahead.
Right. So I'm just looking at this, the lots 304 and 303. I think you have a 1912 square foot, which is like close to 4,000 square foot on that lot for each unit, and I think it's 38% lot coverage. You're looking for some relief on the lot coverage. The other lot, 302, 301, I mean, it is in the side triangle. I know you've made amends to try to, to keep it away from there. But yeah, the whole thing, it looks like just shoehorned in, just, in order to get another unit in there. It's not even uniform with the rest of it. And I think that your arguments are valid and sound as far as the area and to try to get some relief to put duplexes here. But this particular plan, one of them is just so oversized, and you're really pushing the envelope. On 303 and 304, you could have a little bit more front yard. What's it? 25 feet here, you could have more, and the other one just, you know, come back to something that fits a little bit better into this line.
The reason we're looking for the 25-foot front setback is because there's a shul that's on the property next to it. This is a property that's in between a shul, and as you indicated, it's a trailer shul at this point.
Right.
So this isn't like a desirable lot at 14th Street or even Drake Road where somebody's going to say, oh, I want my single-family home there, because it doesn't make sense. The lots right across the street are shoehorned in well, the same. They're the same size lots with the same size duplex.
I'm not arguing that point. I agree with what you're saying as far as, you know, finding a use for it that would be desirable. But when I say shoehorn, I'm talking about 302 and 301. If you look at just the design of them, they're not even uniform. It's not even like one strip. When you look at 04 and 03, you see it's a rectangle, it's a perfect rectangle. On 02 and 01, you did everything possible to get that extra lot.
You think the rectangles are bigger than they should be?
Well, that's for sure. On 04 and 03, you know, that, I think it's you know, it's a lot of density for this lot. You could use some of the area to do a little setback.
Well, the applicant was looking, based on some interest in it, into 1,900 square foot footprints. Certainly if the board said that's too big, those should be smaller, that's something that would make sense, and the applicant would have to agree to that. And then they would have to find somebody who wants a house of that size, which isn't unreasonable to have something smaller than that. And certainly the width of it, you know, a couple of feet could be taken off each side. You know, whatever coverage or building coverage that the board thought was appropriate. Typically for duplexes it's 35%. This is at 38%, which is exceeding the normal. I'm sure the applicant would reduce it to whatever building coverage the board felt was more appropriate if the board was looking on the application.
So you suggested to leave it as a duplex or to make it smaller, to make a single family?
My testimony is that single families are not the appropriate use here. You have the whole development in the area as duplexes, and you're sandwiched in with a shul. And when the shul came in, the applicant didn't, the property owner here didn't object to the shul. He said...
The property owner couldn't object to the shul because it probably has a right.
People object to as-of-right applications all the time. They talk about traffic, they talk about all that. He went above and beyond that with a dedication so that the dedication was to his detriment. He agreed to a dedication to his detriment because the shul needed a dedication. He would have had to do it eventually when he went to the county.
I'll pick up where Judah left off. You know, like I said before, the only positive factor that I see in giving this approval is this is on the same cul-de-sac as all those houses, right?
Yes.
However, it's like the corner house is kind of shoehorned in 25 feet. Why can't we go up to 30 feet on the width of the house? 30 feet to the front yard setback. Don't shoehorn in. And the same thing I heard from Ingva. That I think what the board's problem is that front lots more so than the back. The back we can work with, move it back or not, you know what I'm saying? But the front lot, you gotta come up with something on that over there.
Well, again, as I said, the reason for the 25-foot front setback was to give some separation from the shul. If the board thinks the rear yard doesn't...
But on one side you have 30 rear yard, the other side you have 10 rear yard. So what kind of separation is there?
The one, we have 20 foot, and that one is set back because it's closer to the corner. The other is set back 30, so we have 20 and 30.
Here you have 10.
10 is to the deck.
10 to the deck, 20, and the other one you have 20 and 30.
20 to the deck and 30.
Right. So, and the shul is more to the front of the...
Well, as I indicated, the one closest to James Street, we felt it needed to be set back further, and he lost backyard on that one because we didn't want to come in with that one too close to the intersection. But we certainly adjust that, make the rear yard smaller, give more front yard, whatever adjustment would be needed on the bulk variances.
But you had a problem because you had a side triangle that you had to play with. even clearer.
We're very clear of the site triangle.
Now you are, I know you are.
Yes.
You're very clear. You're very clear, that's why you ended up the way you are.
Yes.
That's where you ended up. Does anyone else have anything to say on this application? From the board? Judith. I'll open to the public. Yeah. Let me open to the public, because I know we have and if everyone wants to hear, please step up.
Sir, if you raise your right hand, you affirm to tell the whole truth and what I got to say.
I affirm. I want to mention something. Before it was discussed that we're going to use the public comment section like a recess. Brian will be busy looking up stuff. Again, I know you won't like what I'm saying now as well. The public should not be treated as nuisance. People come up and speak. They should be heard and they should be respected. Not only that, I sit in other, I come up in other boards. Sometimes I get a compliment. Yeah, you said something good. It happens by the township committee. It happens by the planning board. Never happens by this board. I'm just mentioning this is because the public comment should be a place where people should bring up points and the board should listen and not feel like we're just treated as cattle.
Can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes.
Before, when you commended us for doing a good job in the basement, you did a very good job. Thank you very much.
Mr. Klein, I think the chairman was suggesting in order to move the application along that they would listen to the public while Mr. Flannery found something in terms of the ordinance. It wasn't like they were not going to listen to the public.
Well, he should have listened to the public. You know, the public is speaking to the board, to the professionals, and to the applicant. And he should, if he has something to respond to. I'm not looking to make you guys look bad. I just want to bring out that point. You guys are doing well. It's just a little, not an inch.
If you want us to take it seriously, when you come up here, don't come up and say, I have nothing to say, and go back, sit down. That makes a joke out of the whole thing. You want to take it seriously, do it. It's a serious comment.
He's correct.
Yes, right.
And he said that was at 2:20 of your.
No, if he takes over my time, it's his problem. As far as the master plan, okay, I know the board was tilting it like everybody's speaking about setbacks. Some of the board members spoke about the master plan. The master plan recommended, yes, it should be lower zone, it should be higher density, but it's subject to improvement of certain roads. Tomorrow night is going to be a big showdown. Well, how far this master plan, this restriction is in compliance with the law. It's in court. And there's an order to show cause, there's a junction in court, and everything is going to be tomorrow in court decided on that. So, but as long as the court, as far as now in the book, there is a restriction, what's going to happen is, if you give, again, I'm not objecting to it, but if you give Brian the opportunity to come every time that the master plan recommended something with restriction and just come to the board, you have thousands of houses waiting for your approval. Because Brian could come and every time is saying, it's only a restriction to roads. Guys, approve it, you're the zoning board. I have no problem with things coming to your board. Again, they'll be better accommodating to the public to make them feel good. Maybe I would say, hey Brian, bring everything to this board. But I'm just...
You're going to find out. Can you take everything to find?
Nah. Hold on a second. As far as the fences, the last thing, and I think this is a point that I want to bring up with Francine. I see a lot of properties. Francine defines the ordinance. It could be the ordinance is written that way. Is that the front that you can't put you can't put a 6-foot fence in the front of the property. The side of the property you could. Now she defines this part as not a frontage, it's a side. I understand. So when the applicant comes up over here and says, listen, this is, we're just not going to put the front, but this, if it's a corner, and a lot of times later when you drive down, it's dangerous because people can't see how the cars come out, and it's very dangerous. So I'm just bringing up this point. Over here you have a side triangle that prevents that, but in the future, yes, you took off some time. Yeah, and I'm not going to end in a bad way to give you a bad taste. I just want to bring up this point to look out when there's a corner lot, not to make sure when it comes to your board, obviously the guy is asking for something, to make sure that you give him the front setbacks should be as far as the front limitation on fences should be on both sides. Thank you very much for listening.
Have a good day. Anyone else?
You just did it.
What?
You just did it, gave that attitude.
be heard, please step up. Please step up.
Could you raise your right hand, please? You affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God.
I affirm.
Could you please give us your full name and spell your last name?
My name is Chasida Berkowitz, Berkovits. 108 Claremont Drive.
And I missed your first name.
Chasida, Chasida.
Thank you.
No, you never did. SIDA. That's it. Chasida. What? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I am here as representing myself. Sorry, okay, I am here to I am here to represent myself and my fellow neighbors.
No, you can't do that.
Okay,
You're
so
not
representing
attorney.
myself,
There you go.
and they'll be my cheering squad.
That's good.
Okay, we live on Grantwood Drive, I live on Grantwood Drive. I signed on my house in Grantwood Drive after whatever happened with whatever was approved in 2015 with the duplexes. I moved here out of Westgate, out of development, because we were looking for more space. We were looking for a little more quality of life. We specifically signed on this block, and there's no picture of all the other blocks, because if you saw a picture of this block is a much shorter block than all the other blocks. And as we were told, and obviously nothing was a guarantee, but the lots across the street have not gone to the planning board and the zoning board, and the zoning board is not approving duplexes in R12. So chances are really that they're not going to put duplexes. There was no guarantee, there's nothing written etched in stone, but we specifically went on Grantwood Drive because we had the hope that across the street would not be duplexes and the block would be less crowded than the other blocks. The families on this block are families who are a little older than some of the older blocks. Most of the families have older teenagers. The families have more than the standard 2 cars that families are having because they have older children that are already drivers. So we have a lot of volume of cars coming on and off the block. Added houses, I mean, I know we're saying that these is the last property. It's not the last property because those are only the first 2 properties on Grantwood Drive. And I think we all know that as soon as that gets approved, Rebecca Katz will be here to get the next 2 lots approved for duplexes because it will go in accordance with the look of the block, and how could the last 2 lots on the block not have duplexes? So we're not talking about 2 duplexes, we're talking about 4 duplexes. So that's 8 houses, that's at least 16 cars, and that's if there's no tenants. No, I'm in a duplex across the street. Right across the street. You don't have a picture of the whole street. I'm not so professional. I didn't come with any big signs. I don't know.
Is it the same person who made you that quote-unquote offer? Is it the same owner of the other side, or is it a different person?
Yeah, we bought our houses from Rebecca Katz. I'm saying that.
Not from Mr. Holmes?
No, not from Mr. Holmes. No, I'm not accusing anyone of promising anything because everyone said I can't promise you, but it was really hard to get this pushed through, and they said this is the last of the duplexes in this area.
Somebody else is making a promise for
somebody from the people we bought our houses from. We also have a lot of buses that turn around in our cul-de-sac, and it's a very short block because, you know, when the buses are doing their pickups, we're at the end of James right now. We're the last stops. We have a lot of buses that turn around on our block. I know that they mentioned about, that being able to see when you pull out of the blocks. I can just tell you that I recently got a comment from someone who said, I hate your area. The drivers who live in your area are all very aggressive. And I said, what? She said, every time I drive down your area on James, I hold my breath. The cars come shooting out. But if anybody wants to try driving off of our block and making a left turn, you cannot see James. You can't. There's already been accidents of cars that pulled out and slammed into cars because you can't see. Not because of gates. Even without gates, you cannot see onto James making a left turn. We also have 2 schools. Oh, okay, I got lucky. We have the South Cove and we have the other school across the street. Whenever there's an event, whenever there's camp in the summer, the backup and volume on James is tremendous. And the backflow comes all the way to our block. We have people parking on our block all the way from the school down. I think, and I can't say 100%, but just from memory of studying the maps, that the shul, there's another block, I don't know what it's called, on the other side of the shul, some paper street. I don't think the shul goes to the end of that block, and there's more lots even at the end of that block. So I don't know how we can say that this is the last of that whole area. I think also we're talking about the improvement of the roads. Those improvements did not happen yet. When those improvements happen and we see that things got much better in the area, then we could talk about, building more houses. But they said that they're worried about the property being undesirable because there's a shul behind it. It's an extremely, extremely desirable area. People are constantly asking, is there availability, and looking to move to the area. So I don't think that if there's single-family homes across the street, that they will not be sold. Thank you very much. Good night.
Anyone else? Want to be heard, please stand up.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you give us your full name and spell your last?
David Holtz, last name Holtz, 128 St. Nicholas Avenue, Lakewood. I'm the applicant for this proposal. I do feel terrible for the neighbors that are there, and it's not like I don't understand where they're coming from. I am a realtor, a local real estate agent. I understand people, when they purchase things, part of what goes into their mind is certain assumption of what's going to be presented to them. I'm not callous to it, really not. I purchased this property for one reason, really. I live on St. Nicholas, where if you would study the area, you would see it on the map, but 2 blocks over, there's a path, a walking path that connects straight to St. Nicholas. I purchased it because I was purchasing it mainly for me to to hold on to one of the units for my children and develop the other units there. When I purchased it, it was at the exact same time when Rabbi Katz was approved by this board for the duplexes. That's the only reason why I purchased it. I was approached almost immediately by somebody that wanted to buy my property for a shul. I thought about it, and I would have made pretty decent money on it. I mean, I am in the business, and I spoke it over with some people. I'm not totally righteous, but I figured I would apply the golden rule over here. Do unto others as you want unto yourself. And I said, I don't think I want a shul facing other homes that are directly all duplexes. I was pretty surprised and really taken aback that I had opposition on this. It's all conforming. I've been in front of the board, not as an applicant, but seeing what's going on in the real estate industry. I mean, I'm selling homes for 15 years in the neighborhood, so I see what happens. I don't think I've ever heard, I'm sure the board has, but I really haven't, where a block where everything is duplexes. Not only the block, but the block next to it is all duplexes. Not only that block, but the block next to it is all duplexes on both sides. Not only that, but across the street is all duplexes. All duplexes, not one single family home. For somebody to object to that. I understand what Moshe Ingber and others have mentioned, that it's undersized, it's not. It's only 10,000 per each. I dedicated to help, not that they understand this, but to help our cats. I don't know if I was being helping, but that was the way it worked out, that I dedicated to the county. So it really is 10,000 square feet per lot, which of course only based on R10B would be approved. I fully understood that normally it was R12, but I'm not trying to cut corners there. I have no problem setting it back 30 feet, and it was suggested to make it nice. I have no problem conforming it to any which way. It's not a wild application. I understand that it's technically R12, and I've taken at face value. It seems like I'm aggressive. It's all duplexes. I was approached approached by the shul where somebody made mention of the trailers. I was approached by them. Again, I decided not to sell them on my property. But they said the neighborhood, and I believe the rabbi that's the key of that shul lives on this block. I think she had enough decency to, again, nothing wrong with the ladies that came, but I think she had enough decency to realize that if I'm doing her a favor, then she wouldn't even come to object. But she approached me with her husband and her engineer if I could please allow them to cut the setback. So if somebody made comments, I believe it was Mr. Riviera or somebody else, that, well, you have no choice anyway, you can push whatever you want. That wasn't the case. They asked for a relief. If they could extend it there. Extend the shul better, would be better for the parking. Again, I do know real estate. That's what I do for a living. I sell real estate. I knew that it would severely affect the value of this property. And again, I made a calculation that, you know what, it's a golden rule, do unto others as do unto yourself. So I decided, you know what, no problem, do me a favor, just when you put the windows on the side, if you could just mirror them so they can't look onto my property, I would really, really appreciate that. You know, that was my approach the entire time. My understanding is that this is, and not just my understanding, when I spoke to Rabbi Katz, his name was mentioned prior, he made very clear to me that on his properties, which are the properties right behind my property, right further down Brandwood, there is some type of educational deed restriction. Again, I think he had, and when he made his presentation, perhaps with Brian, wherever he used, he said that they were not, he personally was not going to build duplexes there. I applied for duplexes on my own. Before these people, every person, before the ladies that came up here, came to purchase their properties, I made it known, I promulgated it, I put it out there, I actually started an application to go for duplexes there. When they bought it was open to the public. It was on the Hefkerveld blog or whatever, or Klein's blogs, whatever it was, that I was coming for duplexes before they purchased it. This was not any misunderstanding. It was clear and open. I feel bad if they feel I was trying to hide something. I made the application under my name. As the board knows, many times people come to an LLC, some, cockamamie LLC to hide their names. I have nothing to hide over here. I'm coming straight at the duplex. Good? Yes. I know.
I just have a couple questions.
Please.
In Greenwood Avenue, okay? Right. And by the way, whatever, Jerry, Mr. Holtz is the applicant, so we're going to have to give a chance for the public that spoke to come up and rebuttal it.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Who owns the lots further down after these two?
Rabbi Katz.
Rabbi Katz owns on the left side behind the
To
shul.
my knowledge, yeah. He's the one that sold to the shul.
He's the one that owns.
It's in contract with the shul.
It's all one lot.
It's all one lot. I am the exception to that.
Okay. You want that piece out of that one lot?
No, I didn't buy from Katz.
You didn't buy from Katz?
No, nothing to do with it.
You worked with someone
It's a private party that approached me.
So Rabbi Katz sold the shul that lot?
To my knowledge, I wasn't involved in the sale. To my knowledge, it's Rabbi Katz selling it. Yes.
Okay. What's the name of the shul?
It's Rabbi Khan that lives on the block.
Congregation Shneebel Inc.?
I'm not sure what they call it, but it's Khan. The Khans that live in, they would know because it's one of their neighbors.
What? Okay. Who's Bradco Realty Corp?
No idea.
What?
Ratco? No.
That's across the street?
Yeah. No
So
idea.
lot 58 lot 1 and 60 lot 1?
I have no idea. I'm David Holtz. That's David Holtz.
Okay.
I have been, listen, if I can just say something. Conforming to my knowledge, I looked it up because I wasn't 100% sure, but conforming, by definition, look at the thesaurus, means it's in harmonious and it's in line with. A block that's all duplexes, with a block next to it is all duplexes, with a block next to it is all duplexes, with a block across the street is all duplexes, with not one piece single.
Adults with that.
We got you. I
just want to make sure that's fine.
That
the area?
That was
There are other duplexes in
before,
there.
that the only saving grace of anything is because it's right.
No, I understand.
So we got that.
Okay. I have no problem with that. Just
My
yes.
concern now is, and
Yes.
here is my real concern, okay? We gave Rabbi Katz, for whatever reason, I don't know all the details of the application. What's gonna stop the shul now from going further and further and further. That's why I asked before, wait, Brian. That's why I asked before, where the Crystal Lake Preserve starts and finishes, and really to get a good handle and a good picture of what's going on over here, okay? So, going further into the application, I'm realizing, hey, I got a shoe right in the front, and I got probably like 4 or 5 acres right behind it.
Right.
So, I got a problem now.
Okay, but I think the solution to your problem is that from the research that I've done on that, and I do have access to wetlands map.
1 acre.
1 acre, not 4.
1 acre, so that's 16 per acre.
Right. And Brian can help me out with this. It is wetlands, clearly in the buffer zone. I am not. I am the saving grace of my property. Well, I would love to be over in the back, but the back, meaning the end of Brentwood, that's all the wetlands. Buffer zone, C1 stream issues, all of that of issues.
Yeah, but not the shoe property.
That's what
Brian,
happens.
can you point out where's the wetlands?
Well, the only defined line that we have is the zone line, which goes around lot 338. 338 is 2 lots. The sub-application lot 3 and lot 1, which has the shoe on it. There is in the back here, and the reason this Crystal Lake Reserve is now an open space lot, the reason that goes there is that was following the wetland line, so that would typically have a 50-foot buffer unless there's a mistake or something else, and that would have 150. So there's some impact here. The fact that if Brown Lake Cats owned this and didn't build duplexes when he did the other duplexes, it tend to mean to me that he can't get duplexes there because when he came in for all this, if he could have got duplexes there, he would have as well.
If I can just comment on what you said. Sure.
On the other side of the pink line.
Lot
Yes.
337.
Yeah, what's that?
That is
Is that Crystal Lake Preserve?
that's formerly Crystal Lake Reserve. Now it's called the OST.
Whatever, can't touch it?
Can't touch it.
So there is no other lot on the other side of the
That's
shore
right.
on facing James Street?
337, 336, 335, all Crystal Lake Preserve, environmentally restricted, wet, very wet. I used to hunt back there, so I know these are all very
You're
wet.
right across the street
There's a
from there.
stream, yeah, I live across the
Right,
street.
you know. With the red writing is, I can't see what's written over there. No, that says shul? It says shul. That's big enough just for the shul for the parking, right?
The shul in the parking sits here. I did the testimony on the application, and at the time, they said they didn't know if they could get anything back, but they did say at the meeting they weren't gonna build duplexes.
Well, when they said the meeting, they should have. Yeah, they said the meeting, on the road.
Listen, another point.
I've never had a reason to doubt Ralph.
Right, and
Like that, I'm saying, I'm
if I can say something, he's not in the defense office. I'm not going to talk about Robert Katz. So it's not appropriate for me to talk about that. But their contention was, them being the neighbors, that Robert Katz told them that there won't be duplexes there. Listen, that's his. That's what he was involved in.
Fine. Okay, I have no further questions for the service for now. Anyone have anything to add to witness?
Just for the record, I would like to, I know Robert Katz very well, would never misled anybody, never spoken about somebody else's piece of property, it wasn't his, it's not his, so I don't believe anything that's said publicly on it tonight.
I agree. Okay. Okay, continue to the public. Mr. Klein.
I'm cross-examining you. I'm going to ask you a question that might be a little bit harsh. So, but usually when I ask such a question in front of the board, it helps. Because the board gets upset at me, they'll just give you the right out of approval. So I'll ask you a question anyways. It's common practice in Lakewood, applicant to speak to board members. I'm not saying this board, I'm not saying that board, it's common practice. Did you speak to any of the board members prior to this meeting? And if yes, please lie.
Is your question if I spoke to any of the board members over here about this application?
That's his question.
No. Any other questions, Larry Klein?
No. Okay. Okay, next. Anyone in the public want to be heard? Come on back. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I said.
No, of course it is. We're not looking to make it sound pleasant. You want to do what you want. want to do, and we want to stand up for ourselves, okay? So we keep on talking about duplexes and everything being duplexes. I'm sure you know that Ridgeway, which is right down the street on James, on the other side of Drake, is being built of single-family homes.
Chairman Kiesler, please keep down, keep it quiet. Thank you. Go ahead.
Ridgeway is being only single-family homes. So I don't know that we can say that this is a neighborhood that will only be duplexes. Also, Robert Katz did not promise us something. It was people from his office who said that they own the property, but no applications have been put in for development of that property as of yet, and that considering what's happening in the board and the zoning board, they do not imagine that they will ever get approved for duplexes. They didn't say anything about any application.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, and I know from speaking to other people and doing our research, and we've been working hard on this, that there's a very high chance that Rabbi Katz will be looking for duplexes after this gets approved, and then like he's gonna say, this is the only lot on the block that doesn't have duplexes. No, he didn't. Directly across the street from 108, 110, 112, and 114.
Where's 108, 110, 112? What is that?
Here you have I don't know how these lots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is across the street here, over here.
Right. What's that, right? Can you take the mic?
Yes.
We need, no, we need her at the mic. We need her at the mic. Just face it to us now, yes, exactly, correct.
Okay,
Please speak into the mic.
right across from over here, this is owned by Rabbi Katz, and it's not owned by the shul. You could come visit, come look.
That's what I asked before, they told me it's 1 big block.
Where was that whole thing?
The shul is only the first, from what the cons told us.
Mrs. Berkowitz.
Yeah.
The lots behind the shul that were built duplexes, where were they exit?
The same place.
This is Edmond, there's Edmond Avenue over here, right? Here's a street that the shul has to build. What?
Everybody would exit.
No, the two properties over here are going onto Grantwood, and the two properties over here have to go onto Edmond. Now, I have no idea what's on the other side of Edmond. That's Paper Street. The trailer is right over here. The trailers, officially, from what I understand, are on the parking lot of the shul, and the shul is built right behind the trailers. Behind that, there's still two more properties.
Correct, but that's what I asked before.
Right, do you know what I'm talking about? Am I making this up?
It's all one lot.
That's what I asked.
Yeah, but the shul did not buy that whole area. The shul did not own this.
That's what they said. They said the shul owned.
I don't know if the shul bought. I don't know if the shul bought.
Oh, that's sorry.
That the neighbor represented that Rabbi Katz still owns. I don't know if Rabbi Katz did a subdivision. The tax map, the official Lakewood tax map, shows that it's one lot, and the shul is on the property.
So this one lot, the congregation Shtimalim, 356 lot 1. Is that whole corner?
That's the whole one.
So then he owns the whole thing. It's not subdivided.
356 lot 1 is owned by Congregation
Shtimalim, Carnegie. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Now, which one did you want to have?
That's it. That's that whole lot. So he owns the whole thing. So it's not subdivided. It would be subdivided. If it would be subdivided, it wouldn't be the whole thing.
You're saying that the shul owns everything through
That's-
Grantwood
that's-
Drive?
that's
That's
not-
not what the shul told us.
That's what I'm listening right now. That's what I'm trying to figure
What?
out.
Showing on the records.
Well, that's not what we were told by the people who own it, who are being our next door neighbors. It's hard to imagine that the shul owns that property and we don't know about it.
Can I see this?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
38 lot 1, sold in the shul.
Mr. Chairman.
361.
Hold on. 361. 3561. This is 338. No. 3561 is over here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Forget the bottom of this. 3381 is Miss Yaakov today. She's right. This is all caps. All caps. She's right. It's all caps. Got the wrong. Steve is across the street. You gave me the wrong information. But it is. That's the applicant. And that's the shul. And this is Katz's property right now. Right. Yes.
Ryan,
I have another question over here. Where's the wetland from?
Wetlands is close to where the pink line is. I don't know exactly, I don't know if there's a,
Does it cross?
yeah, it goes up like this, these are wetland lines.
Okay, where's the line?
I don't know exactly, but it's close to this. That's why when the township did a wetland study, they made the Crystal Lake Preserve line to follow that wetland.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I can tell you. Yeah, remembering the planning board application, the wetlands line for lot 1 is in the vicinity, and I don't know exactly where it is because
I need to know exactly.
I don't think an LOI has been submitted yet on lot 1. It's in the vicinity of the northern property line. And I don't think it's been final established yet, as far as I remember.
And that's what I want to my knowledge also.
From that application, correct?
Yes.
Mine too.
But Mr. Flannery, are you saying that Rabbi Katz cannot, under any circumstances, come before this ordinance for duplexes? It is impossible. What could he do with the property? Oh, that's what I'm saying. So what's going to stop?
What's that? I never said he could.
Oh, I just thought you said that.
I don't know who owns it. I don't know exactly where the wetlands or buffer is. I know there's a shul in the front, and there's undesignated trees in the back. And I can tell you this for sure, because I've been in Lakewood a long time. Wherever the DEP lets them clear the trees, they'll clear the trees and they'll build something.
Well, it was cleared of trees. That entire lot was cleared of trees.
Your lot was all clear.
This shul also, you mentioned it's a trailer.
No, right now it's a trailer. They're planning on building the building.
Are there plans,
Shul's right here.
Well, I think they're still fighting over parking spots, but they've been working on it.
Here. This is a market trailer. They plan to build a regular shul. We don't know what's going to happen.
The issue is, it may be possible for this shul property to subdivide a piece off the rear and develop it. It may be possible.
That property doesn't belong to the shul. The rear of the shul doesn't belong to them. They only own the front of the property.
I don't know that for a fact. I only know lot
That's
1.
our information.
Either way.
Okay. I think we got all clear. We have an understanding and clarity now of what's happening. Anyone else on the public want to be heard?
Yes.
Please step up.
I'd like to cross-examine Mr. Holt.
you can ask, sir, are you gonna testify?
Cross-examine Mr. Holt.
Ask questions.
Why don't you come up and answer?
I'm sorry?
We'll come up and answer your questions.
So that, why don't we swear you in the meantime? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you give us your full name and spell your last?
Christian Goldberg, Goldberg.
I didn't get your first name.
Official, Fischel.
Thank you.
Lakewood, New Jersey.
Your full address, sir.
640 7th Street, downtown Lakewood, New Jersey. Mr. Holt, did you say in your testimony that Mr. Klein owns Hefkerville?
Excuse me, Mr. Fisher, can we state to the facts of the application? We want to
I
state
didn't-
the facts of the application.
If I don't have the, what have that for?
Mr. Goldberg, you say that question again, sir?
Facts of the application, not hypothetical, my question.
Can you give us that? I didn't get that question. What was it?
Did Mr. Holt, in his testimony, as he got up here tonight, say that Mr. Klein owns Hefkerville? Did I ask that question or not?
No, it's nothing to do with that.
I missed it. I can't.
Nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with the application.
Your Honor, Mr. Klein owns blocks.
A lawn site.
It's relevant.
It's relevant.
Is it close to the public?
It's not irrelevant. The testimony of the person who's testifying is saying it's not true, and his testimony is not correct.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the public want to be heard? Thank you. Seeing nothing from the public, we'll close to the public.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Right now, it's an R12, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. the new ordinance has not been adopted yet.
Right.
And when it will be adopted, if it does, it's going to be an R10B.
That's how the master plan recommends it.
And when it will be adopted, if it is, and when it will be an R10B, you still will need a variance for this application.
It'll be permitted uses for the 10,000 square foot lots, but they still will need some.
But you don't have a 10,000 square foot.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So my recommendation would be that do one level, don't do both. If you want to go, pretend it's not 10B, and you have 10,000 square feet, do the duplex. But if you don't have 10,000 square feet, they don't come for a variance on something that never happened yet.
Well, it's similar to applications that were entertained by this board in the Cherry Street area, when the master plan said it should be an R75, and they would come in with 9,800 square feet, and the board would say, yeah, that's virtually, and it's development that's consistent with the area, and that it's development that makes sense, so that the board heard them. The one issue that I'd like to address is that typically for a use variance, we need 5 yes votes. I know at the beginning of the year, beginning of last year, because this year we didn't do that, beginning of last year, the chairman had said, if there aren't 7 members here, that the applicant could request that we come back to the next meeting.
Well, you didn't do that. We've been here for an hour now, Mr. Flannery. We ought to vote this evening as to what the story
Well,
is.
the board has in the past come back after the hour's worth of testimony, and there would be no new testimony. The board just comes back and votes when there's 7 members available.
That's correct.
So that the applicant gets a full.
If somebody else wants to read the testimony, if somebody else wants to read the testimony, we always do that. But we're gonna go all the way to the end, okay? So we're gonna consider this a regular application to the end. But I just have a rebuttal on that Cherry Street. You know what they did on Cherry Street and why we approved it? You know that they gave 20 feet off their property to make Cherry Street wide and nice and fix Cherry Street? And that's how we did it? Cherry Street neighborhood was a disaster. This neighborhood's not a disaster. There's no real reason for it in this neighborhood.
Well, it wasn't just Cherry Street, it was Somerset.
It was Cherry Street and it was North Oakland, the main drive behind it.
And
Yes.
Somerset and North Oakland, they weren't given because the right of way was there, but the board looked at it and said the development's consistent with
Because
the
it's
neighborhood.
all one neighborhood. It's all one thing. But over here,
And my testimony is, this is an enclosed by the wetlands constraints, enclosed by the open space, enclosed to the east by where the board said, we're not going any further than here.
Mr. Flannery, we have it. I think it's time now.
One more question.
one more question.
Did you say before that you gave land in order for the road or something?
The county wanted a dedication along the road. This lot was initially 200 feet by 200 feet, which allows you 10,000 square foot lots. The shul, when it was being done, needed the right-of-way consistent so they could show a road plan designed in accordance with the county's widened standard, and this applicant agreed to do that. So that's why his lot is no, he doesn't have.
If you wouldn't have done that donation, would
There'd
you
be
have
two
now?
10,000 square foot lots, yes.
That was the point I was going to come.
So out of your kindness of your heart,
I'm not kindness, because that was required.
I'm
trying to What was required, just, it's viewed like a typical 20,000 square feet, divided 10 by 10, which you would have to dedicate to the county eventually. Rabbi Katz, not because of the shul, but because of the homes that Rabbi Katz built. They required him to get it from me before he actually was able to put a shovel in the ground for their homes. That's what happened.
So who required it?
The county.
The
county required it for the.
Main Street should get widened all the way down, so it should be more flowing traffic.
Cherry is a local street.
Cherry is a local, it's not a street, it's a main drag, that's a local
So
street.
it's as a 10,000, which you dedicate anyway. So when we keep on going back to it's really 9,050, it's 10,000.
Okay, so is everyone finished? Because I want to ask, okay. I would like to ask for my fellow board members for a motion, if we should wait to move this thing off to the next meeting or vote on it. You guys decide.
It's up to the applicant.
It's kind of gray area.
Let me ask Gary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Gary, when we initiated this rule about when you don't have a full quorum, that they have the opportunity. So my understanding always was that
They come, they eyeball, they see they have 5 or 6, I don't have what I need. So, unless they felt that they wanted to, for the benefit of time, to let it be heard by the board that was sitting there, then they would say, okay, we're gonna let it be heard, and then we'll go for a vote by the next meeting. I kind of feel that what happened here was that they put it out there, and then there seems to be some opposition, and they're kind of feeling that it may not be going their way, so they say, let's wait and see if we can go to the next one. Kind of feel like we're being used, and I'm not sure that that is within the spirit of, the rule that we made. And I just wanted to know if you have a comment on that.
Well, that's what I mentioned to you earlier, and I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, it was a plenary. We've been listening to this for an hour already. Normally, my recollection is correct. Your recollection is what I recall. That's not in the spirit of what we agreed to. We always said, start the application. So, but you have the right to do that if you want to grant his request. Now, the issue is going to be, all 6 of you have to be here next month to vote. And at least one other person has to listen to the tape. So, if that's what you want to do.
Right. Usually what I do is I make an announcement that we only have 6 and you're ready to proceed, and this time I didn't. Correct.
Well, it's up to the board to decide if you want to carry it, to allow for a 7th person to listen to the tape.
Correct. But that's why since I didn't do that, beginning of this application.
My suggestion would be that
I asked for the motion at the end, you guys want to hear it.
Now, for clarification purposes, this is a use variance, meaning that if we do approve duplexes, it does not necessarily have to be that size, it can be a little bit less.
It has to come back to the site.
But it has to come back to the site.
It has to come back to the site.
But the amount of duplexes are approved, which
That's
means that
correct.
we don't do just one.
It can't be more than 4.
It can be more than 4, but it could be a little bit.
I don't see the benefit of approving a use variance here.
If we approve it, we're approving 2 duplex lots. How the 2 duplexes are gonna lay out, that's later on. But you could squeeze in 2 duplexes later on and make 2 houses over there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you're also, to follow what Mr. Natalis asked, you're also approving, presumably, the variances. So you do know, generally speaking, where those houses are gonna be.
It's basically approving the application. I don't see the benefit of it. It's either, somebody wants it there or somebody doesn't want it there.
The site plan later is gonna be a choke.
Yeah.
No, there's no.
Right. I mean, usually on a commercial, if you have a change,
There is no site plan.
The site plan later.
No,
This is
there is
subdivision.
Right.
You're approving, you're acting on the use variance, and there's a number of bulk variances you're also acting on now.
So this is the only application. This is not a bifurcated application. This is it.
This is it.
And that's the way it's submitted, but if the board isn't comfortable with the whole thing, the applicant would be okay at the board's discretion to bifurcate it. The applicant would be happy at the board's discretion to say 1 duplex and 1 single, whatever the board's discretion is. I think it might be beneficial, certainly
Okay.
beneficial to the applicant.
Okay, so I asked for a motion. What?
Before I make a motion, if they're okay with 1 duplex and 1 single, I'd rather do that.
You can make the motion. Then it is.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve here 1 duplex and 1.
Where does the single layout?
The single will lay out.
Which lot would be
The single, yeah, I got it. The single will be the first one as you drive in, and the duplex will be after that.
Let's
I think they should resubmit an application for that.
Now, here's the only, here's a caveat about the motion that Mr. Jones made. We're on the single-family lot, which I'm presuming for the sake of discussion is the corner lot. You need variances.
The 2 small ones?
What's it look like? Where's it gonna sit? I think that we don't plan these applications, not on the go like this, Sometimes we give suggestions to applicants and they come back and,
If I put to the board, if I can make a suggestion.
Okay, so one second, so let's pull back.
I pull back the application, the motion then.
Okay, good. That's not over.
I'd like to make a suggestion to actually bifurcate the application. I don't think there's room here for single-family homes. I think the duplexes do belong in here. Even the people that came to speak against the application, they live in duplexes. Lakewood does need duplexes. There's not so many more duplexes available. These are rather large. So I would suggest that in this particular case, and again, every application is looked at its own merit. I think in this particular case, it is beneficial for the whole development of this area. It's not going to stay empty. Something has to be done. and it doesn't fit single-family homes, I would suggest to bifurcate the application and either approve or not, and I'm ready to make a motion, as a matter of fact, to approve 2 duplexes, only as a bifurcated application, meaning they have to come back with a site plan, and after site plan, we decide whether it fits or it doesn't fit.
Just make the comment.
Well, what happens to all the other things that are happening?
That's what we're taking the rest of the things out because it'll be by site plan.
As I understand Mr. McCallum's motion, it's simply to approve 4 duplexes.
Right.
Period. With the understanding that you have, well, you know,
Yeah.
with the understanding you have to go back and give a formal site plan, which would require, then you'd have to decide variances, what's it gonna look like, that kind of thing. That's what I understand is.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to point out to Mr. Naftali that I would absolutely not be in favor of a bifurcation of this application. One of the reasons why this board has always been suspect when there's bifurcation of applications is exactly for what we're seeing here today. You're seeing an application that doesn't fit, doesn't look right, you have opposition, and when you bifurcate, you just give a blind approval, and then when it comes to, oh gee, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. They're telling you what they want to do, and you don't like it, so you say, let's bifurcate it. It's exactly the opposite.
The
of what we
applicant
normally
doesn't
do.
realize.
Well, we have a motion, so Mr. McCallum's
I
motion.
thought, is this a motion or not?
I would like to make a motion, yes, because I respectfully disagree because I feel that at this point, that's what fits in the application. We do retain the right to make changes, whether it's big or small, but I don't see how in such an area fits a single-family home. So I think right now, and I also don't see how anybody else can come with another duplex. And in the event that Rabbi Katz could come with another duplex, you know what? It's not even the end of the world. There's going to be one more duplex, and that's it. The whole area. It's not so bad. This is happening here.
Okay.
So I don't think they're going to come for it anyway. I don't think that he's going to come here at all. But I would make
Need a second.
Okay, guys. I have a motion from Mr. Naftali. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Obi. Madam Secretary, roll call, please. We need 5 affirmative votes for this.
Mr. Gillen.
Why didn't you start with Z this time?
Okay, Mr. Naftali.
Yes.
Mr. Vivian.
No.
Mr. Ingber.
No.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Gotta go back to Gillen.
Mr. Gani, yes.
Okay, Mr. Halberstam.
We need 5 votes anyway, so.
No, hold on a second.
What?
Yeah, you need 5 votes by, yes, that would be.
I need 5 votes, it doesn't make a difference. Come on.
I need an answer.
Yeah. Whatever you want. Pick an answer.
All right, so the motion to bifurcate it is.
Denied. Motion to bifurcate is denied.
So, can we
Can
vote
we do
on?
another motion?
Well,
We can do another motion on this whole application now.
a couple things. The applicant has requested to kick the can down the road till next meeting to get it set. I think you should decide tonight whether you're going to do that. I think an applicant deserves to be told yes or no. You're going to vote on it tonight, after an hour of testimony, where you're going to agree to have the motion, wait till next meeting, yes, 17. He has the right to know that. I think he asked that request. A little late, but he asked that request.
Okay. So then, let's see if he wants to wait till next month.
I'll make a motion to it, and we should push the count down the road and we come back next month.
Next month, and if you'll have better luck next month, we'll have better luck next month. Okay? So I have a motion from Natalie we're gonna carry it just for the vote only, no more testimony.
Hold on a second.
What?
Let's, I'm looking at, I didn't get to this because we didn't get that far in the motion, but there are discrepancies on the plan with the zoning. He provides plans clarifying what bulk variances you're going for, and I'll give you an example. You're requesting a front yard variance.
The application was closed, we're going for the vote only.
No, yeah, but what are you voting at? You see, this is the issue. What I'm telling you now is that their chart for what they're requesting bulk variances is not consistent with their plan.
So then fix the chart.
That's the point.
No, the variance.
That's what we need to fix.
Okay.
The variance requests before the board are in accordance with Terry Board's letter. And assuming for the sake of the discussion that you grant variances, then they gotta change the plan. That will be the first time. But the variances that you request, that is requested, the C variances, are on page 3 of that letter. And they're, very specifically laid out and set back up. That's what's before you tonight, and that's what was testified to.
Okay, good.
So we have a motion.
So we have a motion from Mr. Kelly to
vote.
To vote only.
No, I thought the motion was to wait till next month.
Yes, the next month.
Kick that can down.
Kick the can down. For a vote.
To vote next month.
Correct.
Just to be clear, there's no discussion here?
Correct.
It's just a vote?
Isn't that what you mentioned before, that this
Yes.
is what we said?
Yes.
No, I think Judah mentioned that this is exactly what he doesn't want to see happen.
That's correct. You said it doesn't.
Like you have a motion.
Okay, so I have a motion from Mr. Kelly. Can I have a second? Just carrying the vote. Correct. Second from Mr. Naftali, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Naftali.
Yes.
Mr. Vivian.
Yes.
Mr. Ingram.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Mr. Halberstam.
Yes. Okay,
So next month there will be.
First up, you'll be there.
There's no new testimony. The only thing that next month is that a 7th member of the board will listen to the tape, and will just be a vote up or down next month.
That's all it is. Okay? Okay? Yes. So we're having a break. When we come back, we're going to go to 3773A to be holding.
Is it March 4th next month?
That's true. This is the existing lot.
That's all fine, you should know about it. I told them they should not come seriously.
Yeah, but it's also when there's a break.
I'm looking at my letter, I'm looking at the zone,
Jeremy, did you watch the game last night?
Yeah, boring game,
What a
wasn't it?
boring game.
Terrible game.
Terrible, boring.
Watch a little bitter end though.
Huh? I didn't watch it. Tomorrow, Jeremy, tomorrow's the next game. Tomorrow's a different game.
I'm sorry?
Tomorrow night there's another game. It's State of the Union.
There's one right here.
Yeah, there's a game here tomorrow. There's a game here tomorrow. So tomorrow's game is called State of the Union.
I'm just seeing here on my phone, Michelle Donato's filed a complaint against everybody, alleging conflict of interest and blah, blah, blah.
Conflict of interest on the whole.
On the master plan, on the golf course.
So what's the problem?
Widespread corruption.
Widespread corruption? Is your father complained to who?
You just let him have the whole.
We haven't even had.
What about, I'm sorry?
Jerry,
What?
will you read that? 1 second.
I'll bring up colleagues OC, I'll mail it, I'll email
Email
it.
it to me.
I will. Yeah. Right. I don't. I know this many guys I'll just send it to you.
this night, there's a game tomorrow night, the night has nothing what to do. We'll go home. Tomorrow night I have a state of union to listen to. 100%. Tomorrow night I have a state of union just to listen to. Or you come here and listen to this whole show that's going to take place over here tomorrow night. What? State of union is 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Then we have a state of emergency after the horror show. You're gonna watch it tomorrow? Oh, you're trying to pass that? March 4th.
It's not adopted. Was adopted with the new one.
Well, the master plan, master plan is the law. Master plan is just the design.
They adopted the ordinance.
No.
What?
They did not adopt an ordinance.
So what you listen to tonight?
Yes, as soon as the roads go in, it's automatically.
Who's the gentleman? You can like.
Automatically change that.
I don't know about that. Well, then it'll be automatic.
Yes, that's how the ordinance is.
I can check
It's not even that, it says it's when the level one. Doesn't say one, let's say cars driving less. It's automatically, you know.
I'll check it, thank you.
No, that's good. I'm just getting set this up. Sure. So then.
Well, that's fine.
These are better posts, or they're better posts?
So, boy, I just get around to 600 waivers. Yes, so you can keep it off the next one.
Something says. Not sure that's necessary.
Okay, guys, we ready to go home? Okay, and let the show continue.
Mr. Chairman, we got him that opportunity.
Wait. Grandma's not here. Hey, Grandma. We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you. You can move it out, Grandma.
Appeal number 377.
Wait, turn on the machine. It's on. Look at the kettle of tea.
Is he your attorney?
Okay.
You'll be holding.
We just
Wait. Go ahead. Please read it to the record.
Want me to read it?
I was
Yes.
trying to help.
Appeal number 3773A, Doobie Holdings LLC, 870 Ocean Avenue, Lot 548, Lot 78, major site plan for multifamily housing.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Mr. Gazarovski. Our mutual clients have been outside working the hallway, and they're pretty close to having, I think, an agreement between the parties. We would like this to carry to the March 4th meeting to allow some time to make some revisions and submit them for that year.
Do me a favor. If you bring any revisions to the plan.
Submit enough time.
So that the time complete.
To review them.
No. Make sure that you have enough time to have a revised site plan, revised architectural, or else you're gonna go to April.
I understand.
Chairman,
Yeah,
just a minute.
Wait.
Just a minute.
Thank you.
This gentleman approached me and said he's an objector, and I guess he'd objected to having it put off for a month. But he also said he's represented by Mr. Gazarovski, who agreed to put off for a month,
So let me clarify. We all came to
Wait,
propose
he's not
this.
talking into
Hold on. Oh, wait. Before you continue, I want Mr. Gazarovski in here.
Is Mr. Gazarovski
Yes, hold on, I'm
representing?
leaving.
Well, if he's representing you.
That's why I wanted him in here. That's exactly why I want him in here.
We just explain that we don't agree with this at all. We're just doing new plan forward. That's the zone, you know? Why we don't explain that. But I wanted to know why we're here. I want to know the neighbor is here for a reason.
We understand why you're here.
Sorry?
You're not here for the popcorn, we understand why you're here.
I want to be especially on record.
Yes. Roy, what's going on over there?
My understanding,
Thank you.
my name
Mr. Gazarovski.
is Ron Gazarovski. I'm 20 Perth Amboy. My office is in Red Bank, New Jersey. I represent Lakeview Homeowners Association. They retained me to appear on their behalf in this matter. While all these other matters were going on, evidently my clients and my friend Mr. Pepper's clients were negotiating. And seemingly, they're coming up with a plan that in fact is different than the one which they were going to present this evening. And for that reason, they're going to go back to the drawing board, they'll have to renotice, submit new plans for review.
Totally.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yes, we're carrying the meeting for March 4th. Wonderful. That's all we said.
That's what we said.
If there's going to be revised plans now, they have to be here in time for Remington's office to review them and issue the report. You know, I just want to put on the record so Mr. Gazarovski's clients.
And I think, frankly, not frankly, but I think if the plans are changed, you have to renotice, right?
Okay. We don't have the plans, so right now we're just carrying.
All right, fine. Okay, John, motion to
Okay. Motion to carry to April, to the March 4th meeting.
Okay.
March what?
March 4th.
March 4th, okay?
March
Can I
4th.
have a motion?
I can make
The motion will be seconded. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Napoli, yes. Ribbiat. Ingram.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Halberstam.
Yes.
Okay.
So anybody that's here for the field number 4099 to be back here at March 4th meeting. So that is good luck. Moving ahead, field number, oh, not 4099, I'm sorry. No. It was for 37738 Louis Holden. Sorry, that application will be heard on March 4th, not 4999. We're going to hear 4999 right now. Okay, moving ahead, field number 4999, Bill Heineken.
879 Whatstone Drive, lot 1.
Guys, please exit the courtroom quietly so we can continue. Thank you.
Lot 12, R12 zone, addition with variances requested. Terry Lowe, engineer planner, January 6, 2019. The applicant is seeking approval to develop an existing single-family residential property, remodeling the existing home and construction of a two-story addition with basement and deck, seeking both variance relief, a front yard setback, dual frontage to construct a new dwelling.
Mr. Lyons, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth?
I do. Len Lyons, professional engineer, professional planner, Lakewood, New Jersey, and I have with me the applicant, Mr. Fleischman, who is going to indicate that he's came to me to present estimate.
Do you have any documents you want to identify, Mr. Lyons?
We could do that. I have a copy, A1, of the cover sheet of the plans we submitted, lines dated 11/15/19. I have a exhibit, which is a copy of tax map number 90, with the applicant's home identified in green, and the architectural plans that were submitted, prepared by Weingarten, custom plan design, dated October 11th, 2018. Additionally, existing.
We're going to lay those A, B, and 3. The A, B, and C, 1, 2, and 3. That's fine. Mr. Dykstra, are you going to testify or affirm?
Yes.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes.
That's the applicant. Yes.
Just wanted to go through what the application is, and then the applicant wants to provide some testimony on the use of the home and why they're proposing the addition. The application we have is for renovation of the existing home. To have a 7-bedroom home and a guest bedroom on the first floor. There's a half basement now. There'll be an addition to the basement, but there'll be no basement entrance. There's no basement apartment proposed. It's basically a nice play area for his children. The variances we're requesting is the addition is proposed on the south side of the house, which fronts on Lakewood Pine Boulevard. We're proposing 13.47 feet, where 30 feet is required, and there's also a front porch proposed on the house, which has a setback of 24.89 instead of 30. The rest of all the other, everything else is conforming. The existing undersized lot in Hartstone, it's a 10,763 square foot lot, which 12,000 is required additional. Most of the lots in Hartstone are undersized and they're developed under planned unit development.
The front yard setback variances, those are pre-existing, right?
No, they're both new front setbacks. The front setback to Hartstone Drive is for a front porch addition on the existing home, and the other setback, which is kind of odd-shaped corner lot, is on the Lakewood Pine Boulevard, and that's for the actual living space addition.
Are you polishing the house there now?
No.
That was being added? The black one was being added?
The black area is what's being added on the
back being added?
Correct.
And that's, so then why, so then help me out over here. Why do I have then a front yard setback of 24 feet where 30 is?
Because there, if you, I guess if you look on sheet, actually, any sheet A, if you look at A3.
A3?
A3.
On 103, 303?
A3 is on the.
Yeah, oh, A3, architecture, yeah.
The architectural plans.
Yeah.
You'll see there's a covered porch proposed along the front of the house. So
So that little piece.
that front porch requires a front setback. Otherwise, the house had existing conforming front setback.
Got it.
But the
Okay.
porch
So
creates
it's only
that.
that little nook. How wide is that nook?
The nook for the dining room is,
No, how?
for the porch. It's 27
Okay.
feet 8 inches across.
Okay. So then we also have a 13-foot side yard setback by the back porch, right?
For the addition that's on the.
That's creating that 13-foot side yard setback on Lakewood Park Boulevard is by the corner of the porch.
Correct.
This corner here creates the 13-foot side yard setback.
That is correct. And the remainder of the house on that angle is 15 feet or a little more than 15 feet off that front property.
So the remainder of the house, there is no setback, there's no variance requirement? Or is there a variance requirement on the remainder of the addition?
We need
That's also.
correct. We need a setback variance.
You need a setback over there as well.
And a setback variance for
What do we need? What do we need over there? 20 feet, right?
No, it's a 30-foot setback to.
It's a 30-foot setback.
Correct. That is,
Right. So this whole line, this whole Lakewood Pine Boulevard is a 30-foot setback, and you only have 20, at best, you have 22, 86, 15, 13 at the lowest number.
yes.
Right?
That's the lowest. That Lakewood Pine Boulevard is access to the park behind Mr. Teichman's property. There's no other residential
Is
property.
Lakewood Pine Boulevard on Paper Street?
No, it's a paved street, but it's an access, basically it's a driveway into the park.
And what's across the street on the other side of Mr. Teichman? On Lakewood Pine Boulevard?
There's a private house on Lot 9 across the street, and then.
Not in Hartstone, on Lakewood Pine Boulevard.
No, but there's a, where you have this circle on Lakewood Pine Boulevard, there's a house on Lot 9.
There is a house on Lot 9.
Correct. There's nothing on Lot 4 that's township lot.
Right.
So, there's just one house across.
And where's the park?
The park is
That-
basically
that-
Lot 2, Lot 11.
That whole empty block there is behind this house, that's the park.
Correct. That'll be a park. Correct.
Township park.
Yes.
Yeah. Not a golf course.
No, not yet. Those are the particulars of our applications that the applicant would like to present a little testimony on why they would like
Can
to.
you move that porch, that deck in the porch a little bit further in? Just off the street?
Mr. Teichman, why don't you testify affirmatively?
Yes, sir, over you go.
Sitting as part of, report in my speech about.
He's on the street, you know, I want to see you when you sort of take a second.
How far is that, if you count?
Maybe 3 feet.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Will I answer the board member's question, or just give my own speech, which probably.
Give your whole speech, you have 2 hours to give your speech.
Go ahead.
Unless Mr. Connell says it's 2 hours.
Mr. Chairman, fellow members of the board, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to propose our addition to our house. We bought and moved into our house 6 years ago. At the time, we were a starting family with 2 kids and living in an underground apartment. Our new home looked like a palace to us. We were considering the size of our house and living in the future. 6 years later, I think having grown our family to 6 children,
it's now become, what used to be a palace has now become quite crowded. Children are literally climbing the walls of the house. Our house, which was built in the early 80s, was not built for a large growing family. This is a true for our entire neighborhood. So most people either adding additions to the house or moving out of the area. We put our roots in the neighborhood and we like to stay here. Part of the attraction of us, our neighborhood, was a relatively large estate, strong community privacy, and most importantly, the backyard. We were looking to buying a house that pretty much ruled out all development and brought us to the hearts of the neighborhood. We didn't make a mistake. While we had privacy, we also had a strong neighborhood community. When speaking to my fellow neighbors, telling them the plans we wanted to do, they were supportive, ranging from excited for you and so happy for you. That's our kind of neighborhood we want to stay here. In starting to plan an addition, we were faced with two options. Either push out to the right towards the corner or push back behind the house. My understanding, either way, with the 30-foot setback and our triangular property, we would have to come to the board for a variance. The reason we like this fence to the side and not to the back, because as mentioned, we bought our house, that one of the considerations of buying a house was the backyard. Our kids are very active and energetic and play in the backyard all year long, and like to continue this in a healthy and safe way. We were shopping for a house, the market value of our house, which is 1,700 square foot, was the same as a new development at 4,000 square foot with a basement rental. So we gave that up for the privacy and the backyard. We like to keep it that way. Our proposed expansion will keep it to the privacy standards of the neighborhood. The street facing the expansion, Lakewood Pine, is a 60-foot right of way, minus the parking parts. Our entire back property line is dotted with tall and thick trees, and the back of the side is also dotted with trees, which will make a natural barrier giving privacy, and this will not have an impact on the privacy, look, and quality of life in the neighborhood. There is no exterior entrance to our current and also proposed expanded basement. As mentioned, we want our privacy, and we want to keep it that way without any basement rentals. We do that with kids later. The proposed expansion has been designed to honor our current without any future growth that would make it in our neighborhood. Also, if I may request from the board to additionally consider, while considering our proposal, is the required extra parking. My understanding is on the amount of rooms, we will need 4 parking spots. The board will consider waiving this and allowing us to keep our current driveway. Besides the expense of enlarging the driveway, we would have to move the water lines and plot lines and remove the tall bushes and trees that add to the landscape and privacy. Today, we're not adding any rentals, so there will be no additional cars on the driveway. Has been working out for us. Most of the block lots are 80 feet wide, which with each lot can have 3 or 4 cars parked on the street for visitors. We know we are located on the corner, we can easily have 7 to 8 cars parked in front of the house without disturbing any neighbors. There's always plenty of street parking, and we are in a low traffic block. And also, if I may mention that I've seen from us, we have some of the neighborhood that when we ask for a small variance, that the part of the recommendation is that we need stone front on the wall. He came back to request the neighborhood can support it. It does not fit the neighborhood. In most places, it will look nice. Like us, it will be a eyesore. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, over. Question. If you could, Mr. Tanner, if you could give me a little understanding of the layout of the house. I'm looking at the attic, and it says upper attic and lower attic.
It's a split level house.
Okay, so the entire house is split level.
What?
The entire house is split level. So that means
yes.
There's no basement entrance because if you're not adding in, to the basement area, the split level is generally.
No, we are. The current house has a basement, and we are expanding that side. We're expanding the basement.
Okay, the split level section also. So how big is the new basement that I'm looking at?
I'm assuming something like 900 square foot.
900 square feet. And that's going to be, I'm assuming, a finished basement for you.
Walls and the plates.
And there's no entrance because it's split level, so no entrance. But I do see.
No, we're not putting it. We have no plans. We don't want to.
So, but I see on the, I'm not sure where it is on the, it looks like on the, where it says covered porch, it's near the family room. It looks, it's a guest room, and it says something about bar. Is that a kitchen?
No, that is the guest room. That's a counter room for a guest.
Huh?
That's for the guest room in the family room.
Is that going to be completely separate from your house?
No.
Okay, so that's going to be open to the rest of the house?
The doors going in. It's meant for the guests.
Okay, so I mean,
no
again,
rental.
What?
Not rental apartment.
I mean, that is a concern.
That I understand. It's not rental. It's mainly meant for my aging parents who live in California, and they don't come here often because they have nowhere to go. So it's more designed to accommodate them for a longer term space.
Okay, so that's going to be completely open from the. That'll be open to the house. There won't be a separate wall, nothing like that. Okay. What about? Can you explain to me what the upper? So you said that the upper and lower attic is because the house is split level. So tell me about the size of the attic.
I don't know the measurements.
Is this going to be finished? Is it
Right now, we're not finishing.
What's the, what? What are you doing?
Storage.
What's the square area that you're offering?
Whole house, I guess.
The whole house is like 9,000 square feet.
No, I mean.
How big is the line? The lines, can you help me out here with this? So one more question for you is that, you said something about parking. How many spots do you have there? I see 8.
What? No.
Parking?
All along the curb.
No.
I see 8 boxes here.
Okay. On the site plan, it shows it's 4.
Okay.
But the driveway's not 36 feet long. So we have to, just to get 4 spaces, we have to widen the driveway. And then the whole 30 feet in the front between the back of the car and the property line, they're not official parking spaces. You know, because you have to have an 18-foot long parking space, and they're minus 18, about 12, 13 feet long.
Looks like 8. It looks like 8.
There are
8 boxes here.
Well, there's only 4 now, the number 1, 2, 3, 4.
I know that, but there's 8 boxes, that's what that's all this off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a line right in the middle.
But the entire driveway is only 30 feet long from the existing house to the property.
Okay.
So they are not, you need 36 feet.
You need 36 feet, right?
You only
That's
30.
wide. So this is 30 feet.
Correct.
Okay, so let me
so
get
that-
the question.
so to add-
Why don't you just, instead of putting all the 4 spaces here, why don't you separate them, put 2 here and 2 here? You know, so it's kind of more symmetrical.
Well, the thing is, because the way it was, he has no basement front. Normally,
You know
you
that,
require a basement for a basement
Except
front.
that, I don't think that's gonna happen. But why don't we just put, split them up so it doesn't look like one big block of parkway, of a driveway?
Isn't that existing then?
They have to make it wider.
I have an existing parking park that I for now.
It's an existing parking, no?
No,
So it is now?
It's a typical 2-car driveway.
Right.
It was with a
So you
2-car
make it into
driveway.
4.
So it was just saying, right, because the ordinance requires 4. We drew 4.
Now, are you gonna can you make the 2, leave the 2 that you have there, make the 2 somewhere else, like in the back here or something like that? Does it allow, does the property allow for that? That's what my chairman is asking.
Let me make a suggestion about that. If he's at an intersection, you don't want to move those spaces closer to the intersection. I think it's safer where he's proposing. He's furthest away from the intersection where he's proposing them now.
I got it.
It may not look as good.
No, but that's.
But it's a safety reason.
Why you're
here.
Why you're here.
My oldest niece is only 8.
What?
My oldest is only 8 years old.
I can't hear you.
My oldest kid is only 8. I won't be having any additional cars for a very, very long time.
10 years.
I'm fat.
Okay. Okay, anyone from the public want to be heard on this application, please step up. What is that, another clock?
Why are you singling me out?
Here.
No, he didn't. Anybody he puts it up. I affirm. I see the board likes compliments, so I'll give a compliment. If you go down Hearthstone, a lot of it's in other neighborhoods too. People make bigger houses, or they don't, and they separate the houses and they make 2 rentals, and it becomes like it doesn't look right. It means this, people in the community understand people need to make income, and they need to get some extra money, but people from outside the neighborhood and coming in and looking is that you come in mostly a Jewish Orthodox neighborhood and people have stuff that is not supposed to be there. It doesn't make us look good as a community. So when you go into Hartsville and you have people that doing stuff that the intent of the zoning is not the way it's supposed to be, or in other neighborhoods, it doesn't make us look good. I see this board is very into making sure that whenever somebody comes in approval and he says it's a single family, to making sure it's not like he's coming in and making a single family and he's making a rental. Like in this case, you have a guy that has elder parents and he has grown kids, and they're dancing on the walls, and good for him that he lets his kids like, not so disciplined, like they don't have to be like zombies. And the fact is, he needs more space, and he's building more space for his kids, and he has a growing family, and it's a beautiful thing. And the board is looking at it and making sure that he's not coming to fool you guys. And you're doing a great job with that. So I just want to commend you for what you're doing, and thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons, a few questions, and then you can take your action.
1 minute, somebody else wants to be heard. Please step up.
Oh, sorry.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm to tell the whole truth?
Yes.
Can you give us your full name and spell your last?
Zachariah Grama, last name Grama.
G-R-A-M-A.
And what is your address?
869.
Right next door. I lost your first name, Mr. Graham.
Zachariah.
Okay.
Should I spell that for you?
Yeah, please. Got it.
Zecharia. Okay.
How come he has a name Bill? Did you ask him that?
It's probably because his real name is hard to spell. Legals gonna want to stop.
Okay.
I'm on this left side, not the side of his extension. I do pass by his house every single day, many times, going to the shul back and forth. That property, first of all, I'm more than happy that it'll be extending. His Baruch Hashem, his family is growing, and his kids are active, and I'm happy doesn't have to take up his backyard. And along the side, regarding the taking of the area, making it look funny, making it look different. First of all, there's a park in the backyard, so that's very private. He's a very private spot right there. There's one house right across the street from him, which it doesn't, it's the whole setup is looking like a regular block. Like, what are you doing? It's the whole setup is a circle. And just the way the shape of the property is, it looks fine just going out. It doesn't, I don't think it'll make a difference to me, talk to my neighbors, it wouldn't make a difference. Regarding his driveway, again, the law is the law. I'm right next door to him. To make his driveway wider would actually, that will make it funny, that will make it weird. That will change the whole look of the whole face of the house because of the other houses. Is that for me?
No, it's my time.
Okay. So, that regarding that, like you said, young kids, yes, they will get older, but that would make it across the street, the driveways like that. My driveway is a little wider, but it's not that much, so that will change the look, if anything. Again, I'm happy that he should do it, and that's what I came for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, since I don't see anyone else in the public, we'll close to the public. Mr. Lyons, what do you want to say?
I think Dave had a question.
David.
Yeah, 3 quick questions for you, Mr. Lyons. Off-street parking, the proposed 4 spaces that will make it conforming with the number of bedrooms, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your front yard variance request to Hearthstone is what?
24.89.
Okay, and the front yard setback request to Pine Boulevard is?
13.47.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
No, I have no any further questions. I just want to bring out to the fact that porch is only 13 feet from the street. It's very close to the street, so.
Just the back corner.
Yeah. No. So just a piece of advice. Don't leave it there. People on the street are going to look at it, are going to see what's going on the porch.
Yeah, there was a lot of consideration going into it.
Okay. I live in a corner house. I know what it means to live in a corner. You're all open on all sides.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
And I just want to ask, it's a nice plan, sorry, Mr. Chair. If you could just very clearly state on the record that your guest suite will not be a rental.
My guest suite will not be a rental.
Okay.
Nor will the basement.
Because we were just asking questions before, and we were back and forth. We had this similar application in 14th Street and other places, and not always was the board so in favor of that, so, but it's a nice point.
Good information.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve this plan.
I have a motion from Moshe Weaver, second from Natali. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Naftali.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat.
Yes.
Mr. Ingber.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Halberstam.
Yes. And good luck. Okay. Okay, can I have a resolution? Can I have a,
496?
can I, Franny? Resolutions, any resolutions tonight?
There's 3 resolutions.
Okay.
Do you want to?
No. No. What are they? Can I have a motion for resolution 4096, 4096, 4097, and 4094? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution, can I have a motion to pay bills?
Aye.
Resolution to close tonight's meeting? Thank you, good night, everyone. See you March 4th. Bye.
Good night, Jerry.
Jerry,
Good night, Jay.
a question, nothing to do with this, tonight's meeting. What was the court?